Hi, welcome to my vlog. My name is Rick Carrillo. I pastor New Life Church in Orange City. You can visit us on our website or on our Facebook page if you'd like more information about the church. But we're going to continue forward. We've been covering some subjects that were maybe in some cases controversial, maybe clearing up some things. We're keeping it light, we're keeping it simple so that everyone can get something out of it. But today, and we're calling this series, Why Church? Why do people go to church? And why do people have questions about church? Why do we teach some of the things we teach in church? So today, we're going to cover why the devil. So, we have all these different perspectives and all these different thoughts about who the devil is. You say devil or Satan, and the first thing that comes to mind is some guy in a red tights and a long tail with a point on the end and a pitchfork and little horns or whatever, but that is actually not who the devil is. And but we are influenced by society, we are influenced by movies, we're influenced by what other people say and think. But what should really influence us about who he really is, because he is a person, he is real, and he does have a job to do. What we need to learn about him is that we have the victory and he is already defeated. So I want to cover that today, so that if you ever go into a church and you hear about the devil, you already know who he is and what he's all about. So let's start with John chapter 10, verse 10. It says, "The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly." Jesus said this. The thief, he's obviously talking about the devil. As we already know, the devil is out to destroy us and to steal our faith from us. So who is this enemy? Who is this thief? Is he powerful? That's a good question. If so, how much power does he have? Do we have power over him? That's another good question that we want answered. Are we influenced by what we see and hear on TV and movies? Absolutely. You say the devil, or you say demon possessed, or you mention demons, and the first thing you think about is someone crawling on the ceiling or puking out green vomit everywhere, and some priest standing over him with holy water and spraying it everywhere. We have all these different thoughts, and we have now paranormal activities that we connect to the devil and ghosts and things like that. But all that stuff is just made up by man. Let's see what God has to say about who this devil or this Satan is. So, in some cases, the church tends to exalt the devil and give him more credit than he deserves. We tend to give him credit for things that we are responsible for, and he doesn't deserve that credit. He gets blamed for things that he never even did. The devil made me do it. Or, I was demon possessed, or the devil's voice was in my head, and, all these things that we tend to blame the devil for. And sometimes we blame God for some of these things. But today we're going to stay on track, and we're going to go to 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. It says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour." I read that slowly with pause for emphasis so that you would see that he's actually like a roaring. He's not a roaring lion, but he's like a roaring lion. And he's seeking whom he may devour. It's almost like you got to give him permission. Who can he devour? Who's going to allow him into their lives? And a roaring lion, a lion usually doesn't hunt. It's the lioness that hunts. But a roaring lion will go into the thicket and roar and see if there's an animal that will whimper, or maybe find one that's hurt and something that it could very easily take as its prey. And the devil works the same way. He's not going to force himself. He's not going to come against those that rise up against him, right? He's like a roaring lion. He's looking for permission. Are you going to give him permission into your life? Look at John 8, chapter 8, verse 44. It says, "You are of your father, the devil." He's speaking to those of the world that are not saved. "And the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and does not stand in truth, because there's no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he is a liar and the father of it." See, the devil can't tell the truth. Every time he opens his mouth, every time he says anything, it's a lie. The devil is a liar and the father of lies. He cannot tell the truth ever. In Genesis, we see the devil in the form of a serpent telling Eve that she can be like God if she ate this fruit. She was already like God. He was lying to her, and she listened to his lie, and she allowed that temptation to take over, and she allowed that lie to sit in her mind just a little bit too long, and then she listened and thought of it as truth and said, I want to be like God and have this knowledge. And they ate, and they were no longer like God. They were separated from God. But we see the account of the devil tempting Jesus 3 times. And lying to him. Jesus was weak from fasting and being in the wilderness for 40 days. And he tempts him 3 times. And the response of Jesus is what our response should be, is it is written. This is what the word says. This is what God says. This is what will always trump him and stump him every time. Colossians chapter 2, verses 13 through 15. It says, you, being dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, he has made alive together with him, having forgiven you all your trespasses. Thank you, Lord. Having wiped out the handwriting of requirements that was against us, which was contrary to us. And he has taken it out of the way, having nailed it to the cross. This is what happened at the cross. Having disarmed principalities and powers. Disarmed principalities and powers. He made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in it. He disarmed the devil. He made a spectacle of these demons and of the devil and all everything else that operates in that realm. Revelations chapter 12, verses 7 through 9 says, now war arose in heaven, Michael, his angels fighting against the dragon, the devil, you'll see in a minute, and the dragon and his angels fought back. And he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan and deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, his angels thrown down with him. See, it says here in Colossians and in Revelations that he was disarmed by Jesus and he was defeated by God. Disarmed and defeated. I used to be a children's pastor. When I used to teach this, I would say disarmed means he had no arms, and he was defeated, he had no feet. No arms and no feet. So we used to call him Bob, because if you threw him in the water, you threw him in the pool, what would he do? He would bob around. So if you ever see any of the kids that were in my class and you ask them, what's the devil's name? They would say Bob, because he has no arms and he has no feet. And he goes around like a roaring lion, seeking who he can have as his prey, seeking who he may devour. Roaring but not hunting. He's a roarer but not a hunter. He's got a bark but no bite. No arms, no legs, and no bite. God has given us several ways to have victory over this devil. He's a nobody. He's a nothing. James 4:7 says, therefore submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. See, we have to submit to God, and then we resist the devil, and who flees? He flees from us. We don't run from him. He runs from us. So hopefully through some of these scriptures and some of what I've shared today, you can kind of diminish who he is. If you're interested in continued study, you can go to Ephesians chapter 3. Read the entire chapter. Read the entire book of Ephesians, actually. And you will see that as Paul writes to the church in Ephesus, he kind of destroys these powers and principalities. Even though he calls them powers and principalities, he says that they have been put under our feet. So when you read in Ephesians 6 that we have to put on the full armor of God, and then it says, having done all, stand, these principalities and powers rise up against us, yet we have the victory because of what it says at the beginning of that book. So hopefully this cleared some of that up for you. Know that the devil has been defeated. He's been disarmed. And if you ever in a church or ever around religious people that decide to make him more than what he is, you can tell him, that devil is nothing. He's been disarmed, defeated, and he's got no teeth. right? He's got no bite. So hopefully this blessed you. Next week we're going to cover money in the church. Why do we have to give money, and why does the church ask for money? And I know this is probably, out of all the things that I've spoken of about why church, this is probably the most controversial one. So hopefully I'll see you next time.